Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about something. I made a video in Spanish, but someone said, hey, have you made this video in English? And we would love to hear it. So you read the title. Why is C41 film cheaper to develop than black and white film? Even though everybody knows that black and white is actually easier, and I'm going to air quote easier because I'll explain throughout the video, to develop than color. So first thing I'm going to start off is if you are a black and white shooter or a film shooter, film shooter, you should honestly try shooting your first rolls and sending them to a lab because labs will do a good job at developing your film 99.9% of the times. And if you're learning and starting and you got a camera from someone that maybe you don't know if it's working, like I've done many times, the first rolls, you want to make sure that you're not screwing up the developing part and the lab is doing the proper job. So once you send your rolls to the lab, you'll be very surprised to see that, whoa, black and white film is more expensive to develop than color. But I've heard black and white film is super easy to develop. Well, that's where it gets interesting. Back in the heyday of film, there was a bunch of color processors for labs to do. Because color negative film was what everybody was doing. Your grandmother, your mother, your great-grandmother, everyone was shooting color negative film. Black and white film was not so much a thing that everybody shot when color was available, of course. So there's machines that do this job really fast and really well. For example, Noritsu V30, and might be saying the name wrong, does 2 rolls of 35 film in 7.40 minutes. So 7 minutes and 40 seconds. 2 rolls of color film are dry to dry developed. Instead, black and white film, as we all know, can take up to 45 minutes from wet to wet. Dry to wet, and then still drying to develop. And yes, they might be machines out there that do black and white just like color, but they're really rare to see. And if you have a lab that has that, that's awesome. So why is it so different? As I said, color takes less time, to develop, and there's more standardized processes. All color negative film is developed in the same chemistry, same times, unless you're pushing or pulling. So if you're shooting 400H like we have here, and you actually can see a little hint on the next video coming soon, or you're shooting Kodak Portra, or you're shooting Lomography 800 or 400 or Ektar or any color negative film without pushing or pulling, is going to be exactly the same time. And your lab has a machine that does that absolutely perfectly. So they put it through the machine, comes out, boom. It'll charge you $2, $3, $4 to develop, and that's awesome. And then scanning, there's digital ice and the scanning machines like the SP3000 or the Noritsu, I think it's 1800, does an absolutely amazing job of removing the dust, removing the scratches with digital ice. What happens with black and white is somebody has to manually grab your rolls of black and white film, look at what film you shot, how you shot it, because black and white film has a bunch of different developers and a bunch of different times, depending if you're pushing, you're pulling. But let's say you're doing normal exposure, you're developing or exposing Ilford HP5 at 400 or FP4 at 125 or Acros 100 at ISO 100. Each film has a different time because the manufacturers haven't standardized the developing times like they have in color, which I don't really know, so I'm not going to go into that because I don't know. But honestly, each roll has to be done differently, and most times by hand. So what does that mean? It means somebody has to grab your film, has to know what you shot, how you exposed it, even if it's normal ISO, and then you're going to go take it, spool it into a reel like Jobo reels or Patterson reels or AP reels in the darkroom, in a dark changing bag, in one of those little changing tents or whatever. Load that film, and they have to do it by batches. So they have 10 rolls of HP5. They know they have 10 rolls. And then if they have some other film, they have some other film. And then they got to put it through the machine and develop it for whatever time is said by the developing chemical. So if it's Xtol or D76 or HC110, different times. And each lab has their formulas, and maybe they do a couple films together. But usually each film and each ISO, most of the times, are done separately, which requires more labor, more hand labor, more human labor, not machine labor. Then that requires a higher pay for those people to do manual work. And then once that film is developed and dried, then it has to be hung to dry, because usually they do have these heated cupboards or dryers. And then from there it goes to the scanner. What happens at the scanner stage is black white film can't be used with digital ice because it actually reads the grain of silver or something like that, the grain, as dust or scratches and does some weird stuff. If you've ever put a roll of black and white film in your Epson scanner or whatever scanner you have with digital ice and forgot to tag digital ice off, you'll see like blobs of, weird artifacts on your film or your scans, and you're like wondering what's going on. That is because digital ice does not work with black and white film. So whatever scanner operator, automatic scanner has to be done humanly supervised, black and white, one by one, and removing the dust, removing the spots, whatever kind of scratches happen at labs and at home, and has to do all of that shebang, and then take it to the computer and send it to you. So that is why color film at labs is cheaper than black and white, because color film is way more automated for the industry that we're using at labs than doing it at home. So as I said, if you're starting, try doing it at a lab a couple times, see if your cameras have no failures, see that your metering is doing okay, and so on. If you need a meter, get an iPhone meter or app meter for your phone. Get a light meter like the Rennie Labs. You can get a Sekonic meter, whatever, or a camera with a light meter built in that you know is reliable. And for that, the best rule is the Sunny 16 is basically going out in full sun, and it should be f16 1 divided by the ISO of the film. If that's showing properly, then you're good. And once you've learned that the film is okay and your camera is okay, then you can start doing it at home. And then black and white is the cheapest way to do it. But like I said, it's not the easiest, even though it is 20 degrees and it's easier to achieve that temperature, but it is kind of the easiest way to get something. You can basically just throw anything at black and white film and you'll get an image. Color film requires different chemicals and whatnot. It's more simplified in, the spectrum, but at the same time, you have to have higher temperature. Rotation is very critical. Colors can shift very easily, and it's very hard to know if you're not actually having, proper testing equipment to know if your color is going wonky. So yeah, I highly recommend color you do at a lab, or you get like a good kit to do either Jobo or a Cinestill kit or something like that to help you warm up your chemistry. But yeah, that's why black and white film is more expensive to develop and scan at a lab than color film. I hope you enjoyed this video. I do have a Patreon if you want to support me making more videos explaining stuff like this. Of course, all of I said could be taken with a pinch of salt. Maybe your lab does it cheaper. Maybe you are really good at black and white. Maybe you are really good at color. I was always talking about color. Negative film, slide film is another whole beast, which also isn't cheap, mostly because the chemicals are more expensive. And, the film has to be done very, very, very precisely because slide film can go one way or the other. So yeah, I hope you like this show. I hope you want to support the channel on Patreon. It does help me make more videos like these and explain more concepts to people that are new on film. If you're already, tailored in film and experienced in film, maybe this video was redundant to you. I hope you enjoyed it, even though you can leave a comment below if I made big mistakes. I actually love reading you guys' feedback, knowing if I made a big mistake and maybe correcting it down the road. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and just keep on shooting film, enjoying film, and supporting labs if you can. And if you can't, start learning how to do it. I'm going to have a whole series on doing your own developing. I actually already have a couple of videos that are cooking with Nico or developing with Nico. And there's a whole surprise that you can't see on the side here that's coming very soon. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.